We are in the middle of interviewing Joe Dittmar, who is just one of a few South Tower survivors who, when the day started, was on the top of what would be the impact zone. He was on the 105th floor. He's walking down the stairs when United Flight 175 hits. Keep in mind, in our video, we are marking Joe's locations with his initials JD to help you follow along. So let me ask you this with the timing. Where is Flight 175 when it hit, and where were you in Tower 2?
The plane that hit Tower 2, we had gotten down to the 76th floor, which is the sky lobby level of the buildings. You had a choice: get on these elevators or keep staying in the fire stairwell. I made the right decision, very fortunately, to stay in the fire stairwell. Went beyond the sky lobby level, didn't go to the elevators. I was somewhere between 74 and 72 when the second plane plowed through our building. And that plane went through our building between floors 77 and 83 on an end.
What was it like in the stairwell? Did you have debris come through, or did the lights stay on? Or I imagine the building shook. Is that correct?
Amazingly, there was lighting and ventilation continuing due to what I assume would have been backup energy, backup power. But when that building was first struck, that fire stairwell that we were in, it's a concrete bunker, right? It started to shake so violently from side to side. The concrete spidering out, the handrails breaking away from the walls, the steps like waves in the ocean undulating underneath our feet. And we feel this heat ball blowing by us. We smell this jet fuel, and this thing's rocking and rolling back and forth, back and forth. We felt like it was forever. Maybe it was seconds, maybe a minute. And it finally subsided, stopped. And you would have thought that there would be this wild pandemonium, but there was actually nothing in that stairwell for all of us than a stunned silence. We didn't have any idea of what had just occurred. We started to make, conjecture. We started to think, okay, we saw a plane in the other building. Maybe the fuel cell exploded. That's why we smelt the jet fuel, felt the heat ball going by us. We didn't have a clue. We all grabbed for our cell phones. They weren't working. Thank God they weren't working that day for us, because ignorance at that point truly was bliss. What we didn't know couldn't hurt us. So we were very fortunate. The only thing that we had to do and concentrate on was getting out. And that's pretty much exactly what we did in order to get out of the building.
When you got out, how close was that to collapse?
We were out of the building approximately 8 minutes. We were approximately 8 blocks north of the Trade Center complex when the second tower collapsed. The tower that I had been in just 8 minutes prior. Unbelievable moment, because you're just out of there. You have no clue at that point exactly what it is. We hear a radio coming out of a laundry that we were going by that this was an on-purpose terrorist attack, and our jaws just dropped to the ground. And then we hear it, the unmistakable sound of the twisting steel and the crumbling concrete of what was the South Tower coming down, the building that we had been in just 8 minutes prior. But even more incredibly, the sound that I hear every day, morning, night, and that's the sound of tens of thousands of people on the streets of New York, all screaming the same blood-curdling scream all at the same time. It's a sound that you can't forget. It's a sound that I will always hear and do the best I can to manage through it.
Did you get caught up in that cloud of whatever was in there? Were you that close when that collapsed? And do you have health problems that we've heard so much about?
We were very fortunate. We were heading north. And because we were heading north, the wind was coming from the north and blowing south and east. So the death cloud, the big plume of smoke that you mentioned, was blowing everything towards the East River, blowing everything away from us and in a southerly direction, more towards Staten Island than it was coming into northern Manhattan, central and northern Manhattan. So we never got touched by it. We were very, very fortunate. That doesn't mean that we didn't get exposed to some types of the elements that were all involved in the building that day, because while we were in the building, little did we know that there was jet fuel burning, that there was all kinds of fires going on, so on and so forth. But I'm very fortunate that 23 years later, I still don't have any type of residual effects physically from that day.
Let me ask you, 23 years later, are you okay? You have seen horrific things. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. And it's guys like you that make me okay. You give me a chance to talk about it. You give me a chance to utilize the story as a catharsis. That's exactly what it's all about. I continue to talk about this as often as anybody wants to ask me about it. And I truly do know that that has saved me from being not well. Psychologically, I'm doing better now than I was prior to 9/11 because you become very focused. You become very focused on what's important, what's a priority, what's the best thing to think about, what's the worst thing to think about. And I appreciate you asking that because, yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing all right. And I thank you and the people that listen to your stories that you televise or send out over the air. That helps me a whole bunch.
My final question, I've got just a limited time. 23 years later, what do you want America to know? What's your message to America?
What I want, my message always is the same, that we need to always remember, never forget. We had 3,000 voices that were quieted that day. And I try to continue to give a voice to those 3,000 people who were lost that day. Make them understand and make everybody that listens understand that their lives were not lost in vain. Their spirits were not totally dashed. They're still alive in all of us. We need to always remember. We need to never forget. And that is the primary message that I can give to people on the 23rd anniversary and every day.
Mr. Dittmar, thank you so much for your time. God bless you.